losing on penalties to Grimsby in the second round of the Carabao Cup. That did happen, didn't it?
They scraped a penalty shootout. Yet again, with Ruben the team only seems to do anything when it's in a desperate situation. When Harry Maguire's playing up front, we may come to how well Grimsby did. They got everything right first half. They fought terrifically well. There's more mistakes from Manchester United's players, but we're looking at a manager here who was brought in to bring the stylistic change to Manchester United. They show flourishes of heart when they forget all the stuff that he's trying to tell them late on in games, and another Harry Maguire headed goal at the finish nearly rescues them from this situation, which you don't feel they deserve just because of the gulf in these two teams and because how brave Grimsby were. And it may be kind of fag packet maths that I did during the match, but that's a Man United starting 11, I think, cost about £350 million, and they bring on another £225 million, and every player they bring on seems to cost about £60 million. And all the while you're thinking, has anybody got a clue what they're doing at this football club in terms of recruitment, direction? And inside of that is the coach tonight again, who I know it's perhaps his lucky way of doing this, but there's this penalty shootout that's going to dictate the narrative for at least a month or two, and he sits in the dugout hiding away from what's going on in front of him, and perhaps like some Man United fans, he just doesn't want to look at this anymore. And we're looking at a manager now who I think in 45 games for Man United as the head coach has won 16 times, and half of those were in the Europa League. There's been 7 wins out of 29 Premier League games. As I said, stylistically, there's no change. It's just a case of chucking on players who cost loads of money and hoping they will manage to find a way to break opposition teams down. We look back to perhaps Everton last season, that late flourish when Bruno Fernandes inspired it. And I think, the same at Anfield. But in terms of what he's giving this team and what you're showing on the pitch, Marcus Rashford is gone. It's not his fault anymore. There are players leaving this club. It's not their fault anymore. There's £200 million spent in the summer on forwards, and you're not seeing anything even at this level in terms of what they're bringing to the team. The question in this defeat is about Ruben Amorim and whether or not he's been extremely fortunate to get this position, because like Ten Hag before him, you think he's just not good enough to lead this huge football club.
Yeah, of course, there will be questions about the manager, Ruben Amorim. But in your paper, The Times there, Martin, I'm just looking at this article from Paul Hurst, and he makes the point that Andre Onana was at fault for those goals, Riyadh. How much can you blame individuals, i.e. the players? How much blame do you put on the manager for this?
I think that goes to the heart of it. I think the real problem is you can blame both. It's not as easy as being able to put your hand on just one thing. The problems go right the way around the club, from the top right down to the down to the bottom, and it goes across the pitch and into the dugout. Now, I'm watching Onana there, and he's I'd say he needs to do substantially better on both goals. We've obviously had the debate about sort of Bayern earlier in the season already. How can Manchester United be in this kind of scenario where their 2 first choice goalkeepers cannot be trusted? Now, we can talk about the individuals all day long, but I pin so much of this on Amorim, and I remember feeling slightly conflicted by the virtue that was being made of his style when he came in, and the fact this is a man who's so wedded to one approach, almost as if that's a good thing. I don't see it as a good thing. I've never seen it as a good thing. It's predictable. You can set up for a team when you know exactly how they're going to play. I mean, give Ten Hag his due. It was absolutely dire, but he had no more idea than the rest of us of what they were trying to do. So at least there was a degree of unpredictability about it. Now, this 3-4-3, even if we use Bruno as an example of that, Amorim being so rigid, you've got this guy who's playing in a deep position. We'll come on to what that means for a guy like Kobe Mainu, who would ideally be playing in that position where Bruno's being plonked. But he started 3 games in a row now with Bruno and Casemiro in there. Bruno is absolutely wasted in that deep lying position. That is squarely on Amorim. Why can't he pivot? He's got Martin Samuel wrote a really good comment piece on this the other day. But if you go through that United squad and you put them into a 4-2-3-1, for instance, and you look at that starting 11 and the guys who would actually be playing in the positions they want to play, it would have to do better than this, because this is a rabble. And going to Martin's point there as well about the cost. I mean, look, just for the sake of trying new things, I looked up a quote from Dolly Parton. How can it cost so much to look this cheap? I don't want to take anything away from Grimsby, but we're talking about in the post-Alex Ferguson years, this is one of the worst results United have had. And that's an incredibly wide sample to choose from. They don't show any progress. Now, you look at the signings that they made in the summer, there is no reason why this team should be struggling. In fact, I was at the Arsenal game on the opening day. I actually thought United looked very good and were unlucky to lose. Suddenly that disappears when they go to play Fulham. And tonight, with the players they had on the pitch, it's borderline unforgivable that they could be so poor. And a lot of that goes on to Amorim. He has to be able to coach some level of consistency into these players. If he's making them play in roles that they're not comfortable in, how can't he coach them to make them better? I haven't seen any evidence of that in pretty much a single player across the squad. So it's simplistic to say it about Onana and Bayindir and the goalkeepers, but they are symptomatic of the entire thing going on at that squad at the moment.
And Martin, for a player like Kobbie Mainoo, he's in the headlines at the moment, there is talk that possibly he wants a move away from Manchester United. From what Riaf is saying and the troubles that are so deep-rooted within Manchester United, do you blame him for looking elsewhere?
Well, this summer, Man United have spent another £200 million without bringing in major funds, and Arsenal spent another £200 million. And kind of agree with Rieth in that Man United played well in the first game of the season, but you know which of those two clubs will be challenging for the title at the end of this campaign, and it won't be Manchester United. So it's another £200 million gone. The worry of a sale like Mainoo is you're taking out players who have grown up inside the football club and you're replacing them with players who have no connection whatsoever and have come because A, it's Manchester United, and B, they will get paid a lot of money. Strangely enough, you watched a bit of tonight's game and the weather was horrendous. It did look like these players were putting a bit of effort in. You know, I don't think people were shying away from challenges. The hunger of the Grimsby players was incredible. It's just there is no focus for them to bring this all together with. And the tactical stubbornness of the manager means that he's losing game after game after game. And as I said, 7 wins from 29 Premier League games would have seen most managers at most clubs dismissed by this point. We'll see where we go from here. It's such a punishing result. And then Manchester City are the game after next. And the game after that is Chelsea. And he's, a Saturday game against newly promoted Burnley. 3 real banana skins of matches for a manager who doesn't know how to win games at the very, very top level for the football club that he was brought in to kind of save and start this new era. And we often on this programme go back to the recruitment, the flawed recruitment, and Ten Hag was allowed to bring in these players. And I don't think you would give Ten Hag the money to buy a pint, never mind a goalkeeper or a centre midfielder, because it's just been lost. So they're spending so much money that at some point people are going to have to leave this football club. It's in theory this team will get weaker at some point. It was interesting, Manchester United fans I think had bought tickets for the Grimsby end that they shouldn't have been in. Grimsby found out the tickets were taken back. There's a greater desire and tactical nous, I think, from the fans to get into these games than there is from the Manchester United players during them.
Yeah, we're getting a few of the back pages in. You can see the Guardian there, United humiliated. We saw in the Telegraph, Grim Reapers. We've seen in the Times, grim for Amorim. Riaf, is Ruben Amorim's job now more under pressure, more under threat after this particular result?
Absolutely has to be. I think there was an element of good fortune. I'd also say it was the right decision not to get rid of him in the summer. But given how badly burnt Jim Ratcliffe would have felt by the whole Ten Hag situation, you could certainly have seen a scenario, particularly with how bad they were in Bilbao against Tottenham. I think he came into the season under a huge amount of pressure. He can't complain about the personnel that have been brought in over the summer. I think in Mbeumo and in Cunha in particular, I think you're looking at two real quality players with Premier League experience. So he's been given everything in his favour. I think he's got to be under massive pressure because, like we're talking about here tonight, we can all see the shortcomings and we can all see how limited the progress has been, if in fact there's any progress there at all. And just on another thing, and it sort of sounds a little bit like coming in on the boundary rope now, but what's he doing during the penalty shootout? He sat there in his dugout. I know we can sometimes cling to these sort of tangential points and sort of make sort of grand observations, but you need a little bit of leadership in that squad, in that side. I don't think they get it from Bruno, tremendous player that he is, but I don't see him as a leader of men to be sort of profound about it. And you've got Ruben Amorim during a penalty shootout, sat in the dugout, nowhere to be seen, no visible presence. I'm sorry, but none of this stacks up for me as any kind of positive, progressive move for them. I think we all like his honesty. I think he's someone we all inherently want to see do well. But where's the evidence at the moment? You might see a good game every so often, and then it'll be followed by two which are either mediocre or dire. So I think we're at a point now where he's really got to deliver something. But in answer to your question, yeah, I think he's under tremendous pressure.
Martin, you were nodding along there.
Yeah, as I said, that you don't want to take everything away from Grimsby. This is a team that's fourth in League Two, managed really well tonight. The bravery of their players throughout was fantastic. Even great saves right at the death when they were losing. Sorry, when they win at 2-1. Opportunities for, I think, Man United to win it with Delict, and they were putting everything on the line. The bodies. We don't want to detract from a brilliant English Cup night. The rain was nearly horizontal. People all around the country will have been watching that, and this is not disrespectful to Manchester United. They would have been cheering for Grimsby because we love cup upsets and we love the drama of that. But that Manchester United team at the minute is not good enough. It's not good enough for Manchester United Football Club. It's not good enough for their supporters. And it's a club that is lacking direction right the way through it.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughts, gents. But of course, for Grimsby, it will live long in their history, won't it? They'll be celebrating tonight for many, many years to come. OK, gents, thank you for the moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Away from the football, we've had big news from the US Ryder Cup team. We'll look at how it's being covered next.